Okay. Welcome to our Berger Synagogue Network for Engaging Young Families with Young Children workshop. I am happy to welcome all of you to They Showed Up, Now What? How to follow up with families after an event. So let's see, there we go. There we go. Everybody's joining us. Once we get started, I'm going to ask each of you to unmute yourself and introduce yourself to the group. You're going to share your name and your congregation and your role. And during the call, I will invite you to ask questions and share comments. It's kind of like we're all sitting in a room conversing, only we're doing this remotely. So thanks for being here, everybody. And I'm going to ask, looks like Barbara's joining us. Okay. I'm going to ask that you introduce yourselves, and I will start with Ellen because she's already unmuted.
Hello there. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, so I'm Ellen Glassman, and I'm Education and Program Director at Congregation Beth Elmir Tamid in beautiful Broomall.
Awesome. Thanks, Ellen. Rivka, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Rivka Jarish, and I'm at Myshkin Shalom. This is my last year.
I know, I'm sad. You've been a Berger Network participant for many years, and we're happy.
Yes.
To have you. Okay, Adva, you want to say hi?
Sure. So my name is Adva Chatler. I'm the Education Director in Beth Israel of Media. And that's all.
Yep, that's it. She's brand new to the role. And Barbara, you want to say hi? Barbara has to unmute herself. I'll unmute you, Barbara. Say hi.
Oh, hi, everyone. Sorry about that. I'm Barbara Wiseman. I'm from Or Hadash. We are a returning Berger congregation.
Super. Thanks. Okay. So I'm going to mute you, and that way there will be no background noise, and we may be joined by other people. Again, we are recording the call so that we can share our wisdom with other Berger Network congregations. Okay. So here's how it's going to work. We welcomed everybody already. Here's our agenda. We will start with a limud as we typically do and see how that focuses our conversation. Then we're going to talk about Jacob Valley partner programs, how to partner, why to partner, when to partner. And since some of you have partnered, perhaps you'll talk about that. Then we'll get into they came, so what? You know, what do we do next? How do we share what happened in our programs on social media, and how do we follow up with families to engage them further and deeper? And so we'll talk about that. And lastly, we'll have an opportunity for us to share our wisdom with each other. What's worked in your congregation? What do you still need help with? And how we can help. Sounds good? Okay. To the limud. I gotta move all my screens out. Oop. There we go. So I can see the limud. Okay. So you should be able to see my screen, and it says, Hillel says, do not separate yourself from the community. Do not have confidence in yourself until the day of your death. Do not judge another until you stand in his place. Do not say something that shouldn't be heard. In the end, it will be heard. Do not say, when I have time, I will study, lest you never find time. So there is a lot of meat in this piece of text. And first, let's focus on the beginning part of the text, which says, do not separate yourself from the community. Who are we referring to as the community? Or when you read this text, who do you think about as far as the community? And feel free to unmute yourself, or you can raise your hand if you want. Anyone?
I'm kind of looking at that. Do not have confidence in yourself until the day of your death. That seems odd to me.
You're not talking about the community? You want to talk about the second part of the text?
Oh, well, I think the community is, in this case, the Jewish community, that we're striving to find participants and to be a part of the community and welcome people from the larger community into our walls and all of that. So I think the community is simply the Jewish community.
Well, it depends, and if you're looking at it from your congregational community, you know, the community itself, or the larger Jewish, or, you know, the regional Jewish community, you got your kehillah or your regional neighborhood, if you will, and then there's the larger Jewish community, both in Greater Philadelphia and, you know, in the world.
You know
So when we focus on our work in our congregational communities, what you know, who is the community we're actually looking at? And I think that sometimes looks at in-reach versus outreach. So I'm happy to talk about the next piece, but let's see if anybody else has any community things to share. And hi, Jennifer.
Hello.
Lori,
Yeah,
I would like to comment.
great. Go ahead.
When I look at this piece, it makes me think the community is very large, because the first piece, do not separate yourself from the community, is making you think that you're never alone. So the rest of the things that Hillel says is to mind yourself that you're always around people, so you don't need to judge them or to say something that shouldn't be heard. So you need to think about yourself as part of something greater than you are, and that's why you need to always be good and be an active, good part of this community. That's how I see it.
You want to make sure that you're a role model and connected.
Yeah, you're part of a bigger plan, as it seems, with the rest of the things that he's saying. So you need to contribute to this community and not do bad in it.
I love that. I love that. And I think it behooves us to think for a moment about our families, right? And how much they feel a part of a larger community when they belong or come to a program or belong to your congregation or community. Do they feel connected to something bigger? Are they just there because they want their kids to be educated? You know, do they, you know, how do we help them see themselves as part of that bigger story? Other thoughts?
Yeah, just that this piece about never finding time is feeling very appropriate right now.
I totally hear that. Totally hear that. For sure. Really making time. Here it's time for study, but I find thinking about time for yourself is important as well. When you're trying to think about, you know, how to engage families, it could be an all-encompassing, all the time kind of thing. And how do you find time for yourself in the midst of all of that? It's a good question. Someone else? Okay, so we've talked a little bit about community and what does it mean to separate yourself from the community? I don't know that we've touched on that. So let's ask that question. What does it mean to separate yourself from the community? We've talked about how we want our families to become part of the larger picture and part of the community. So what does it mean to separate yourself from the community, or the opposite? How do we not separate ourselves from the community?
I wanted to say that for my this is personal, but in most of the places that I've worked as Hebrew school teacher before I came to Myshkin, I did not belong to those communities.
Mm-hmm.
I just worked there. And Myshkin is the first community that I've worked and belonged to. And it's very hard to separate yourself from it that way. But before, I was very separate from the community. The rest of I'd come in and work and knew those families, but I really wasn't involved. So,
yeah,
to me, separating yourself is, even if you're not a member, as a worker in a synagogue, somehow connecting it is important. Yes.
So when you think about your Berger team and who's a member of your Berger team, really
Yes.
thinking about how they are connected and how are they role modeling becoming a part of the community.
Right.
You know, and not every ed director is a member of their own congregational community. So what is that like? Are you just working there? Are you an integral part of the community? Who are the people that are working with you and how connected do they feel? Yeah, it does make a difference for sure. Okay, so we'll move on a little bit, but feel free to keep interrupting. What are the implications of this piece of text on our follow-up with families? What do you think as we start talking about that today? What are the implications of any of it? Whether it's, as Jennifer said, finding time, saying things that are, like as Adba said, saying things that are appropriate, whether it's about separation or confidence. What are the implications of this text on your follow-up with families?
I think that it's coming to an inner question to our families that we might not be able to answer them directly, but I guess it's coming from their need to feel connected to a community. We can deliver them a lot of information and activities and ways to be involved, but I think that it's something that they need to realize that they have the need to be connected, because you can be connected to the Jewish traditions and holidays by celebrating them in your own home, but you need that drive to feel like you need to be connected to a greater community or to a specific community by engaging in activities. So I think we need to make them aware that they want to be connected.
I think that's totally important. I think we talk a lot here at the agency about families and how they, you know, or even in, you know, in one-on-one conversations with some of you, how do we get families to understand the need to belong and to be part of something bigger than themselves, besides the fact that they want to come to a program or they want their kids to be educated in your school? How do we share the importance of community? And it's hard because families today, I think, find themselves engaged in things that are larger than themselves in a lot of different ways, and they're not only in our congregational or community settings. So I think you're right, Adba. I think it's you know, sharing the importance of community to our families, but sometimes it's experiencing community to understand the impact of it, right? So a lot of times you hear things like, I didn't know how much a part of the community I was until someone in my family passed away and people came out for Shiva, or I was sick and they brought me food, or, and a lot of times our families aren't in that place, so they don't experience that part of community. So what does it mean when we lift each other up in community, and how do we share that with our families? And I think some of what we'll talk about today is really building relationships, and that's part of it. Anybody else have any last thoughts before we move on? Okay, then we're going to talk about a little bit about Jacob Philly partnering, because we learn a lot from our family. We here at Jacob Philly have learned a lot about following up and engaging families on a deeper level and in an ongoing way. And so some of that you can learn from partnering with Jacob Philly. So this is, you've all seen this before, I think. I'll go over it again. And I will share that in number 7, there's definitely a typo, because if normation is not a word, but information is. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm going to start a little bit over. PJ Library is an international program that sends Jewish books to families raising Jewish children all over the world. Here in Philadelphia, we have over 5,000 subscribers to PJ Library, and they receive books between the ages of 6 months and 8 years old. Those are the families that Jacob Philly uses to engage. Those are the families that we engage with through JKID Philly. So they are programs that in other communities would be called PJ Library programs, but here in Philadelphia, we call them JKID Philly as our brand. And JKID Philly offers programs all over Greater Philadelphia: Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, Bucks, Philadelphia. And we've been around for about 6 or 7 years, and in that time, we have engaged with families in all those places, and currently we offer programming in 3 different ways. We offer JKID Philly programs through JKID Philly staff. So JKID Philly staff only programs, when me or someone on my team goes out and does a JKID Philly program, that's one way. We have parent ambassadors this year. This year we have 8 of them. We have one in Center City, one in the Plymouth Meeting area, one in Doylestown, and then we have one in Delaware County this year, one in Lower Bucks County, and I'm missing Lower Merion. In addition, we just got a grant to hire 2 Russian-speaking Jewish parent ambassadors, which will be offering programs for specifically the Russian-speaking Jewish population, mostly in the Huntington Valley, Bucks County area, but everybody will be invited to those specific programs. So that's another strategy we use, is having our parent ambassadors in the field running ongoing programs for us. And the third strategy we use to engage our PJ Library families is to partner with you. And we only offer JKID Philly partner programs to congregations or communities that are part of our Berger Synagogue network. The special part of one of the special parts of being part of the network is that you get to offer programs that are open to families raising young Jewish children into your communities, and you get to market it on our weekly email blast that goes to all of those 5,000 families. Okay, so in order for you to register a partner program, you have to register it on this form. Will it help you if I show you the form? Can somebody let me know if that's necessary?
Isn't this the form that we already sent with our program?
It is.
The grant?
It is the form that you've already. I'm going backwards. Hold on. There we go. Yes, it's the form that you've already received, so maybe you don't need to see it, but not everybody has registered, so I'm saying it out loud again, because you all have programs that are open to young families, but not always do you, as a whole cohort, remember to put them on our website or on our calendar, or on our weekly e-news. So I'm saying it again.
So if I can interject. So I have one program that I've thought about adding. Mm-hmm. And the person who's in charge of it is very resistant to having people who we don't, having people show up because she has to do so much prep for the program, mm-hmm. that she's concerned that if she doesn't know who's coming, she just can't be prepared for it.
Super.
And I know that if we partner, then you put out an RSVP page and all that. But her response is, nobody in our community RSVPs for anything. Mm-hmm. And so she doesn't trust that anyone's going to RSVP for it and that's going to be accurate. So what has been your experience in terms of that?
I appreciate the question. First of all, thank you for acknowledging that you already know we're going to give you the registration link, and you're going to be receiving, notifications every time somebody signs up. So what I would say, I'll say 2 things. One is our JKID Philly families in the last year or 2 have learned how to RSVP, and we acknowledge that some people will still show up, but usually the same amount of people who show up without registering equals the amount of people who register and don't show up. So the indicator, the notifications that you get from the registrations is usually a good indicator of how many families is going to show up, except that it's not exactly the same exact group. Does that make sense? So I would say that the JKID Philly families have learned to do it for the most part, and that within your own community, that's always true that people don't register until the last minute or if at all. So I would say, I would encourage her to try it. And of course, to prepare for a few more extra kids or families. But I will also invite someone else on this call to share their experiences with our registration form and whether or not you were able to welcome families that weren't part of your own community. Because I know you've all done it, actually.
We have the same problem. And we're just doing it the Jewish way. You always make more food than whoever coming, and you're staying with leftovers. But like if you have refreshments or stuff, but you just, I guess, learn to go with it. I was really stressed before our first event, and I wasn't sure if we'll have enough room, enough food, enough everything, and it worked out. So unfortunately, we can control that.
Yeah. So so Adva, you used our registration form so you could see who from JKID Philly had pre-registered.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, does that answer your question, Jennifer? I know that if you want, if it will be helpful for that lay leader to talk to me, I'm happy to talk to her. But generally, it's helpful not only to get families to come to your programs, but for you to get marketing around your congregation to families who are reading the emails.
Yeah, I think I'll try for our December program. I know it's too late for our November program anyway, but thank you.
You're welcome. So just to review, we love you to register your JKID Philly partner programs using that form. We do like it up to 4 weeks in advance. If it's 2 weeks, it's usually okay. If it's the week of, not so much. Which we did have this year. Somebody sent it to me the week of, and we can't turn it around that quickly. We will also put the programs on the JKID Philly calendar. We'll add them to our JKID Philly email blast, as I said. We'll provide the registration link free to use. We encourage you to use JKID Philly or tag JKID Philly in your posts. Once the program is complete, we ask that you take that spreadsheet of pre-registration that you received and update it with accurate attendance information. So that means that the people that didn't come, you can like add a column that says they didn't come, or you can indicate somehow that they didn't come, and you can also add on that spreadsheet who did come that didn't pre-register, and that way we have an accurate attendance record for our evaluation purposes. So
Lori, can you send this attendance sheet again? I couldn't find it.
The one from your registration link?
No,
Oh, the hard copy? The hard copy one?
hard copy.
The hard copy one for walk-ins is actually in the Berger I think it's on the Berger resources page already up so that you can download it yourself.
Okay.
But
I think you sent it and I couldn't
I
find
can
it.
certainly attach it also, but it should be there.
Okay, thanks.
And then again, to cross-promote the program through social media. So if you post on your Facebook page, if you have a Facebook page for your community about a program, you can tag JKID Philly. We can tag you. It's awesome. It gets more people out there. Not everybody reads email, but some people are on Facebook all the time. So really marketing that way. And again, you should check our calendar to make sure you're not programming something on top of a program that we're doing. Okay, that should be clear. Yes? Any questions before I move over? Okay. So we do encourage you to offer JKID Philly partner programs. We love when our weekly emails are so long. We're just looking at the one that's going to go out this week, and it's so long with our parent ambassador programs. We're thinking about a new format to make it a little truncated, shorter. But it's awesome to have so many programs happening all over Greater Philadelphia that allows families to see programs closest to their homes and in times that are convenient for them. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about social media follow-up. With JKID Philly, as soon as a program is done, we take our pictures that we took at the program and post them within a day sometimes that night, sometimes the next morning. But I would say within 24 hours, we've posted about the program. But I invite you to make sure that you have photo permissions before people leave your event. So we ask in our registration form whether or not that people are comfortable having us take pictures. We never tag people in our posts. We invite them to tag themselves if they want underneath. So we might share location or venue, and partners, but we don't tag people. But they can certainly tag themselves and share the photos. But we find that, photos on social media is what people see. So we like to share that. You can also use your website to feature a photo gallery where you can write a short blurb or a blog about an event with rotating pictures. And you'll find on our Facebook page, J-Kid Philly, you'll find some photo galleries there as well. When we do a big program in lots of places, sometimes we put all the photos from all the places we do programs in one photo gallery. So that's one thing to do, is social media follow-up. Now I'm going to give you an example of one that happened last week. So last week we had a bowling party. It's actually interesting. It's a parent ambassador program that was scheduled to be a pumpkin picking program last Sunday when, as you might recall, it was raining profusely. Because it was raining profusely, we knew in advance that we wanted to change the program. So we reached out to the families that had registered and let them know we were thinking about changing the pumpkin picking program to a bowling program, and asked them whether or not they would attend before making the decision to do so. We got all the information about what it would look like and how much it would cost, and then we were able to change the program in advance from pumpkin picking to bowling. So this is an example of the post that happened after the bowling party. It's an example of a blurb. We had so much fun bowling today. We hope you can join us next weekend for some more events. Here are some events. Here's the registration link. So she actually listed 3 different upcoming events that those families, not only the families that came to bowling could attend, but anybody in that Facebook group could attend. And again, a picture. She had a bunch of pictures, but I only put one on the slide. So comments about this particular Facebook post? Things that you are looking at for the first time? Things that are just a reminder?
Lori, I have a question that occurred to me.
Sure.
Because of the ambassador programs.
Mm-hmm.
I want to advertise them to our community, but it's happening at the same time as our Hebrew school.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that some of the families won't go because the kids are not in the right ages, but I have parents that has, younger siblings that might want to attend the J-Kid Philly programs, but it's like I'm advertising an event that's happening at the same time as Hebrew school, as I feel like I'm kind of encouraging my families to go to event and skip Hebrew school. So I'm in mixed feelings about that, and I don't know what to do.
I totally appreciate that, and I'm glad you brought it up. What I will say is this: J-Kid Philly programs, not parent ambassador programs, but J-Kid Philly programs that J-Kid Philly staff from my office run will never be during Hebrew school. That's our rule. If somebody from my office is running a J-Kid Philly program, it's never during religious school hours, with a few exceptions. One is when we go to the Jewish Relief Agency, because that's when the distribution time is.
Right.
One is Super Sunday, because that's when it is sometimes. But our general rule is that our J-Kid Philly programs will not be during religious school time. However, our parent ambassador program rules are different because they're often young families that aren't yet in religious school, and it's a time that's convenient for many young families. So what I would say in your situation, particularly in Delaware County, where there are we're really trying to get families to connect in Delaware County. They're few and far in between. I would say you could say to your families, this is a program geared for kids that aren't in religious school, that are for younger kids, so that it's not in direct conflict, and it's actually for the siblings, not for the kids. Like, you could frame it so that it's not meant for the kids that are in religious school, but is instead meant for their younger siblings.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate your push. Stephanie will appreciate it also. So, okay, anything else about this particular slide? Is it something, let me ask this question. Do you ever post on your social media about your family engagement programs like this?
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So similar to this, where you say, this is great, here's the pictures, here's what's next?
Yep, exactly. I think the biggest problem that we have is our social media goes to the same people that are coming. I'm never sure if it gets out to anybody else. You know, it's sort of limited.
So you could actually, that's a great question. Sometimes we have been known to target a few families, to say to a few families, would you be willing to share this?
That's a good idea.
So really, yeah, so earmarking them or,
Okay.
But you need to find out that that you can do it with your Facebook group, because some Facebook groups are closed.
Mhm.
So in privacy policies and stuff like that, you just need to check in the settings that you can do that.
That's right. So sometimes what we'll do is, so our closed groups, our parent ambassadors have closed groups, but our JKID Philly page has everything. So they can share from there. Usually we're sharing from JKID Philly to the closed groups, so then they could share personally from JKID Philly.
So for the congregation groups,
If you have it, right. So some congregations have pages and some congregations have groups, and yeah, you have to figure out how you can, but even if you can't share from your closed group, you could produce a link or a document or whatever that particular families in your congregation could share to the outside. You could get a couple people to share to the outside world. So we had that, I know Barbara's on the call, we had that at Orkadash for a while where we had I think it was called the Flyer Brigade. And those people would be the people that would be willing to share on social media or post a flyer in public spaces around particular events. So really, it's a way to engage families with something very simple. Would you be willing to share this, once a month? Would you be willing to share a post for us? And that gets marketing out to people that you wouldn't have reached otherwise.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Great. So I'm going to move along here. So best ways to stay in touch using social media is really to ask the questions. Really ask your parents what social media they're into. I have found that I have been successful in connecting to families through Facebook messaging when I couldn't reach them through email or I couldn't reach them through the phone or whatever. They're on Facebook. Some people are on Facebook all the time, so Facebook messaging is the way to connect to them. And maybe that's the way you follow up with them after a program. Some people are on Meetup, some people are on Twitter, some people are Pinterest people. So really asking them what they're connected to. I didn't put Instagram here, but Instagram's another one. If you're talking about younger kids, Snapchat is a thing. But if you have limited time to spend on this, really find out where most of your families are and connect that way. And recognize that they're in multiple places all the time and figure out what the best way to connect with them is. I also invite you to use your social media to say hi and connect to people in between events. So it's not just about not just about an event, but it's also setting up, you could set up a weekly Shabbat Shalom post just to remind people that you exist, right? Congregation Beth El Tamid wishes you a Shabbat Shalom, or or other time, you could post other timely articles, as JKID Philly does, what's Jewish about Halloween, or other articles that people might be interested in seeing, or sometimes just connecting with specific families through social media as a way to just say, hi, just thinking of you, what's going on, through Facebook messaging. And another thing to share about following up after events is to make sure that your synagogue or school website is user-friendly, parent-friendly, welcoming language. I did a consultation with a congregation last week about their website. I had been to their congregation last year, a year ago, through the Berger Network to talk about how to be welcoming, and we talked about their website there, and the new membership chair reached out to me to find out, she wasn't at that meeting, what I had said last year about the website. So I had to look back at the website now to see what was interesting about it that I would share. And so the two things I'll share out loud was before the website of that particular congregation, when I looked at it, said donate now really loudly. And if you're looking at being welcoming to prospective members, that might not be the thing you want to say. See first thing. It's certainly important and should be on your page, on your website in the beginning, but maybe not the first thing you see. And the second thing I'll share in looking at that particular congregational website was that there were no pictures of families. They were all congregants without children. There were no children represented in any of the pictures. So you want to make sure that your synagogue or school website is updated with accurate calendaring information and inclusive of the people you want to reach. So if you're trying to engage young families, make sure that there's young families things that they can see when they first click on your website. Thoughts, questions, comments? Okay, so a little bit more about following up. How much following up should happen and when? So in addition to the Facebook posts that we post after every Jacob Philly event that we do, we also send a personal email thanking people for coming. And so the post would look similar than what you saw on that social media post, but it would say, dear Jacob Philly families, thanks so much for coming to this event yesterday at this place. It was so great seeing you. It was great seeing your kids do X, Y, or Z. And we look forward to seeing you at our next event. And here's a link to register. And here's a link to the social media post where we posted our pictures. You might want to see them and such. It happens every single time. So one of the things that we like to encourage you to do as part of the Berger Network is to provide this ongoing conversation with the families, both families in your congregation and families that have come to your programs. Maybe they're Jacob Philly families that came as a partner program, and to build relationships with them in this way. You could invite them to meet you for coffee or set up a phone call if they have any other questions, and you could say that in a personal email, right? If you have ideas about other programs you'd like to see in our community, let me know. I'd be happy to meet you for coffee or talk on the phone. And, they may or may not reach out to you, but it's an opportunity to open that door. Now, sometimes I send it out blind copy to all the people that came. That's a communal email, but sometimes it's more important to make that particular connection, the personal connection. So sometimes that means I send individual emails to everybody that came, or if I'm launching a program, send individual emails inviting people to come. And then there's targeted emails. So how much? Targeted, that would be a standalone email where there's nothing else in it except something about one particular event that might happen after a program, or inviting them to the next program. So you might send an email, you should send an email after every event, and it might include information about your next event so that you're, again, continuing a conversation and continuing a relationship with families. And along the way, in between that personal email after an event and the next event, you might send a targeted email to those families that came to an event. Hey, and it might say, hey, you came to this event, you might be interested in this event, don't forget to register. I also usually send emails to the people who didn't come, the people who did register for the program, but who didn't end up coming for whatever reason, and say, we missed you. We hope to see you again. So you're missing the mark if you had a family that was interested in a program and didn't show up and you didn't reach out to them afterwards. So sending them a "we missed you" email goes a long way. And really acknowledging that, families are busy and some people get sick, or somebody didn't get home from work in time, or somebody didn't wake up from their nap on time. And so they really intended to be there at that program, but didn't make it. So, being welcoming to the families that both came and who didn't come goes a long way in maintaining those relationships. And then the last thing here is sending packages in the mail. So we know that with our PJ Library families, getting books in the mail is a huge deal. And so over the course of the year, the past year, we've sent a couple what we call in a box, do-it-yourself initiatives. So pour 'em in a box, or Hanukkah in a bag, or things like that, that involves sending resources to families. And so sending things in the mail, like every once in a while, even though it's costs a little bit of money with postage, goes a long way in making a difference. And I think, Ellen, did you do that once? Is that you? Is that what I'm remembering?
Yeah, I do that.
Uh-huh. Do you want to talk about that for a sec? Are you muted? Yes. Do you want to be muted?
We do it for Hanukkah, and I do it sometimes if Hanukkah doesn't work out, I do it like for finals, and we do it for Purim, and I also do sometimes for Passover, depending on when the date is, as long as it's not during spring break.
And do you want to talk a little bit about what would go into a package?
Yeah, so for Hanukkah or for finals, it would be, I usually find a little tiny, I find a dreidel, and I send them instructions on how to play and gelt, enough for their kids, for their roommates and stuff, and I throw in candy. I'll throw in a stress ball just for finals and stuff, just like little things that just, bring it home. I'll send like a paper cutout that says Happy Hanukkah that they can hang in their dorm, because there's all kinds of stuff for Christmas, but not a whole lot for Hanukkah. I used to try to find little tiny Chanukias and candles, but I learned that in the dorms they're not allowed to really light candles. So that was kind of sort of a waste of postage and a waste of money. But I find these little walking dreidels. I mean, if you look in Right Light Catalog or Oriental Trading Company, you can usually find some cool stuff. Just little things that remind them with a heartfelt note. So
awesome. It
Yep.
sounds like you send the packages mostly for college students, which is awesome. But I
Mhm.
think that there's something to be said about sending packages like that to your families.
Yeah.
Probably both families that belong to your congregations and families who have come to your congregation, right?
Yeah.
It costs a little bit of money, I admit. It's the kind of thing that you might be able to get a designated donor to fund. At least that's what we've tried to do here at Jewish Learning Venture. But I wonder, like, there's you mentioned that candles, and it's hard to light the candles in the dorm rooms. That's true. I'm thinking about the window clings that I just saw at Target for $1, where you could light the Chanukia on your window, and kids would love that too. So I invite you to think about what
Great idea. Yeah.
kind of packages you want to think about sending, or sometimes we've done it at a program. So and you could do that as a marketing tool, right? If you come to this program, you get a free gift or whatever. So great ideas. Moving forward, I
can share one other package that just came to me, and it was from another synagogue, and it was, I'm sure it cost them a little bit of money, but it was the Bear jar of honey, and it came with a really cute, it came in a box, and it said, just thinking, wishing you a sweet new year. And if I had thought about that earlier, I might have done that for a few of the on the fringe families that didn't quite join this year, even though we offered them free membership. They had really young kids. They sort of didn't want to use up their free membership because it's only for a year. They said their kids were too young. They didn't quite see that need. But if I had thought about that, I would have sent that little bit in the mail too, just to sweeten the pot.
Nice. I think that's an awesome idea. And right, you might want to give out something to your families that are inside your congregation, but mail something similar to the families that you're trying to reach. It's an interesting idea, and it costs less when you're mailing less. Thanks, Ellen. So some of this is, really things that you already know, but I find that saying it out loud is usually helpful to remind us to do it all the time, not just some of the time. So again, yes, follow up personal emails. Don't send an impersonal thank you by blind copying a whole list of families. What I would say about that is you can blind copy, but make it sound personal, right? So people aren't necessarily looking at the to and the from when they're reading emails. But if it looks like a form letter, then it sounds like a form letter. But if it looks like a personal email to a particular family, like if you start out by saying hi, instead of Dear Jacob Philly families or Dear families who came to this program, and just say hi, they'll see that it's more personal than less formal. Second thing, do forge a personal relationship family to family. Help families meet each other. Think about what families are interested in, talk to them and find out where their neighborhood is or how old their kids are, and connect family to family. That helps build community in your congregation or community. Do invite them to another event. We've talked about that. Do not automatically send membership material, right? It takes years sometimes before a family that comes into your congregation wants to belong. And it behooves us to welcome them every single time and to continue that relationship so that they feel welcomed whenever they decide to join. Do check in periodically. We've talked about that a little bit. You can do it via email. You can do it by text. You could do it by phone. You could do it by Facebook message. But if you've had a family come out to a program in September and you haven't seen them again, you know, you might want to check in with them and say, hey, how are you? We'd love to see you. What's going on? And you might learn something about the family that'll help them connect to you in the future, or you might learn something that will enable you to provide programming that will help meet their needs. And usually when a family has a specific need, like my child naps until 3, so please don't start programs till 4, then there are other families in that same boat. And you can learn from having those one-on-one conversations. So, looks like we have like 10 minutes left on this call. Let's hear about something that's worked for you. Does somebody have a successful engagement tool that they can share? I know you do. Nobody's interested in sharing? Okay, I'm going to hold that thought. I'll go to this slide. What could be better? What is something that you're hearing that you could be doing better? It's fun when we can learn from each other. All right.
I don't follow up enough. You've reminded me to follow up afterwards.
It's funny, Rivka, because as I put together this presentation, I thought, I've said this before, but I know even for me, I have to be reminded to do it all the time. So when I head out to a program here at Jewish Learning Venture, Gabby Kaplan-Mayer, who posts all of our pictures on Facebook, always says to me, don't forget to take pictures. I'm like, I'm not going to forget to take pictures, but like just saying it reminds. Usually, I don't think there's been a time where I haven't remembered to take pictures, but it's a nice trigger reminder. So I'm glad I'm reminding you. Yes, follow up with those families after the program. Anybody else have something they could be doing better or a success they want to share? No, there's nothing else to say. Okay. Well, I encourage you to continue the conversations in your own communities, talk to your Berger teams, think about some of the things that you heard about today. I will post both this webinar and the slides on our Berger resources page, and we'll send it out to you so that you can share it with other members of your Berger team. And I encourage you to talk to colleagues and here with us at Jewish Learning Venture about how we can help you, engage families, what else you can learn. But it's great when we can learn from each other. So my contact information is here. You all know how to find me. I encourage you to remember to visit our Berger page on our website. Again, it has a bunch of resources, including our program bank that lists all the initiatives that you've done in the past past 6 cohorts. And again, I want to remind you that Berger Network congregations like yourselves who have been part of this webinar are eligible to receive a consultation or a workshop for your congregational team. And we've done that in a lot of different ways. Sometimes it's just a one-on-one conversation with me or somebody on my team that helps you kind of brainstorm what it is that you want to accomplish. What are your goals to engage young families? Sometimes it's a workshop for either your board or your team or your Berger Network team. Sometimes I even, one year I did a parent meeting to get to know the families and what they were looking for your community. So as a reward for participating today and in other Berger Network workshops, you are eligible to receive one of those things. So please feel free to take me up on it and let me know what I can do for you to help your community engage families. Any other last thoughts? Let's go around the room. What are you thinking about now? I'm going to unmute you and ask you to talk. So I'll start. Oh, go ahead.
Well, just to thank you for reminding me about the things that need to happen. I feel like my program that I started this year on Sunday morning had gotten people, so I'm very happy. So, but I think following up is really a good idea. So thank you for that.
You are welcome. Thanks for being here, Rivka. Adva?
I think that we get a lot of information that is very helpful over the past few webinars and of course this one. And thank you for sharing all of this with us so we can just get better and continue providing for families.
My pleasure. Ellen?
The Facebook posts. I think asking them to share the Facebook post would really help us, and that was a great suggestion because I feel like we only get to our core group of people, and I'm thanking the same people or I'm inviting the same people, but if they shared it, we would reach a lot more. So thanks.
Super. And Jennifer? Do you want to unmute yourself? She does not want to unmute yourself. Okay. Well, I'm glad I heard from some of you. And again,
Hi there. Sorry about
oh,
that.
there you are.
Sorry, there's a lot of noise here.
That's okay.
I got called away for a second. So if you want to.
So we're just wrapping up. I just wanted to hear if you what you're taking away from this conversation or how else we can be helpful.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for all of the information. I'm trying to figure out if we're actually going to be able to follow through on the Berger Network this year, just because of the way we're so strapped for time. And so I'm trying to take it all in and try to find ways to expand our footprint, but at the same time, I'm still trying to figure stuff out. So I'll talk to you about that separately.
Super, super. I'm happy to give you food for thought. So thanks everybody for being on the call, and I'm sure we'll be in touch soon.
Thanks, Lori.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.